Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm bringing you my March wrap-up. March ended up being a much more successful reading month than I really thought it was going to be. I didn't think I was going to read as many books as I did, certainly not as many pages as I did, and definitely not as many good books as I did. I definitely feel like I'm getting more of a grip on what I like, so maybe I should have seen that coming, but I don't know, I just didn't expect it to go as well as it did. I don't have much time to film today, so this is going to be hopefully a lot less rambly and a lot more concise than my videos usually are, which you will probably thank me for, and I know Edit and Andy will certainly thank me for. I know I keep forgetting to do this in my other videos, but I am going to go over my stats for the month. So I read 14 books in the month of March, and that consisted of 4,773 pages. I did read more pages wise than that because I did DNF a few books, but I didn't include the pages in my wrap up. So these are just for the books that I completed. I will only really include my DNFs if I DNF'd after a certain point, if that makes sense. Like if I feel like it's a good enough chunk of the book, then I will include it in my spreadsheet. If not, I don't bother because it's just extra work for me in my spreadsheet. The first thing I read in the month of March was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was something that was kind of intimidating me and I just wanted to get off my TBR, and I actually really ended up enjoying it. It ended up being, I think, a 4-star rather than a 5 with the other Ali Hazelwood books, and that's just because it wasn't, I don't know, there was just something that didn't quite jump out at me, and that's fine. Like, it wasn't necessarily my type of book, and that was fine. Like I said, it was still a 4.5 out of 5. Like, that is by no means a bad rating. It just, I think what happened was all the discourse online and all the hype of like, it's a megaverse, it's a megaverse, it's a megaverse, had me going into this book feeling like what am I going into? And then when it actually happened, I was like, is that it? Is this what everybody's freaking out over? So like, I had this build up in this book, and then the payoff was like, cool, like that's what everybody's freaking out about. I really didn't need to go into this with my stomach in knots. That was not an intentional. I can hear Becca laughing. That wasn't intentional. I swear to God, it was not intentional. But yeah, like, I was really nervous reading this book, and I didn't have to be. And it was because people online were inflating something that didn't need to be inflated. That was not intentional. Oh my God, I'm not talking about this. No! 4.5, really liked it. Good job, Ali Hazelwood. I'll continue to read whatever you write in the future. Next, I read one of my more anticipated releases, and that was Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. This again was one that I was highly anticipating because I love Tessa Bailey, but was like, really scared to read because it was about golf, and I seriously do not like golf. Like, how is she going to make golf sexy? I tell you, she made golf sexy. Like, I forget that in books you get to cut out the boring parts. Like, this isn't a romance book about golf. Yes, the main character loves golf, and the male main character is a golfer, and well, the female main character is like a golf instructor. Like, that's her parents and her own a golf pro shop, and like they teach people how to play golf and stuff. Anyway, like, yes, like they play golf, but at the same time it's like hockey romances and stuff like that. You're not like spending time with them like doing the thing. So it's not like that. Like, it's time with the characters, and it just so happens that they meet through this medium of golf. I really enjoyed this, the way it looked at mental health and the different aspects of iconography. That's maybe not the right word, but the main character was held so high as an icon that when he sort of fell from grace, it really badly affected him mentally, and here she was, the last person that would stand by his side. And then when he was really cruel to her, it sort of, the guilt festered in him, and he decided that when something horrible happened to her, he needed to step up and help to sort of partially assuage his own guilt, and partially because he felt like she deserved somebody to step in for her because she was always the one stepping up for other people. And she infuriated me so much because she was too proud to take anybody's help, but at the same time she was being crushed under the weight of how much she was doing for everybody else. And as somebody who does that, rude. I didn't need to be called out like that. Rude. But still, I love this so much. Like, this book was so much better. Like, it's such a thick book. Such a thick book. Did it need to be that thick? Yes. Yes, it did. Like, I love this book. I am dying for the next one. And we don't get it until like June or July or something. Like, I am dying for the next book. I'm just so looking forward to the next book. They introduced the characters in this one, introduced the concept, like, it just like fed right into like where we're going to start with the next book. I'm so looking forward to it. Yeah, I loved it. I will continue to read Isabelle because she just writes the characters that I love. So, I'm very happy with that. Next, unfortunately, was the first of my DNFs, and that was The Deepest Blue by Sarah Beth Durst. And this was not a DNF because it was a bad book. This was a DNF because it is not a book for me. This is I want to say young adult fantasy, and it's the start of a series, and I just knew I wasn't going to be invested enough to invest myself into a series. And this is about our main character who is part of a society where there is magic in the world, and there are these creatures that want to harm people, and there are these girls who have powers, and they become the queens and the sort of protectors that work under the queens, who are not queens, but they're like queens in waiting almost. I can't remember the term for them that they use because I read this right at the start of the month. And they're taken away to these islands to sort of like Hunger Games out almost, but like with these magical creatures. Like, they're put on an island with these creatures and they see who comes out alive, and the ones who come out alive get to be these queens in waiting. And basically, like, I could map out where this book was going to go. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew exactly what characters were which archetypes. Nothing was surprising me as this book was coming up. And I liked the characters enough. The plot was good enough. Like, there was nothing inherently wrong with this book. It was a good book. But I just wasn't invested enough to be excited to pick it up. I wasn't looking forward to reading it because it just felt like something I'd read before. And it just felt like there was nothing about it that was engaging me to pick it up. And it's funny because there are so many books where, like I say with my Lindsay Sands books, it's the same thing in a different font. It's the same thing with a different character. Every single time I know what I'm getting. But that's something that I'm invested with, and the character work in there. Each character is so different. Each character's, like, I get so deeply invested in the characters. The character work in this didn't do that for me, and I'm a very character heavy reader. So the characters were fine, but I wasn't invested. And it was a book that I knew was going to be fine. It was going to be okay. But this was a book that was given to me as a lend of a book to be like, try this out as you're trying to get into fantasy, to see how you like it, to like give you a guide of where to go next with fantasy. So I don't feel bad. Like, I didn't choose this as like, I'm going to try read it. This was like, this is one where you might not like it, you might like it, give it a go, see how you feel about it. It'll give you an idea where to go next with fantasy. And so it served its purpose. I still think that for the right reader, this is an excellent book. It was well written, it was well thought out. Genuinely think this is like for a fantasy reader, excellent book. For me, it's not for me. So I'm going to move on because I'm just saying the same thing over and over. Basically, end of the day, not a bad book, just not for me. Don't come for me because I don't think it was my type of book. Next, I read Husband Material by Alexis Hall. This is the second in the London Calling series? Is that what it's called? I genuinely have no idea what it's called. This follows Luke and Oliver, and this follows on from the second book, like a few months, weeks, whatever later, and all of the friends are getting married, and they have this sort of like question over them of like, are they going to get married next? And yeah, it's basically like 4 weddings and a funeral in a book, but gay. Take of that what you will. That's it. I loved being able to dive back in with Oliver and Luke because I got so invested in them in the first book. It's funny because by the time I finished the first book, I didn't feel like I immediately needed to jump into the second book. I was comfortable with the first book being complete. And then the minute I started this book again, I was just like, okay, I'm home. Like, I just felt so comfortable being around them again. And this book did not go where I thought it was going to go. It did not do what I thought it was going to do. And it really, really surprised me. Like, it really, really did surprise me. I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to the next book. This is basically about Luke and Oliver. Luke is the son of two rock stars from the 80s, and he is always in the tabloids for stuff that he's doing, even though it's not actually stuff that he's doing. So like, he is seen as like the son of a rock star fuck up, because he constantly goes out and gets drunk and gets into mischief, even though sometimes it's just that he's clumsy and he tripped over and tried to tie his laces, and it's like, rock star son goes on a bender. He's tripped over tying his laces because he's clumsy, and he is at the only job that will hire him because of this, and he's about to lose his job. And so his friend suggests that he gets a boyfriend that makes him look good and fake date to make him look good until he can keep his job, and then they can, like, you know, end the deal. In comes Oliver, who is a barrister, and obviously, like, being a barrister, he's got a good job, he looks good, he is in the right circles of society to make him look good, and Oliver agrees to this fake dating relationship. And obviously we all know fake dating never ends in fake dating, it always ends up real, but they are so different that they clash so much, and they both have to kind of learn how to be together and how to sort of heal themselves. Their family dynamics as well, it's so interesting. Like, Oliver's family are so like posh and rich, and his parents are very much like ragingly homophobic, to say the least. Like, his dad is horrendous, and Luke's family, his dad basically just buggered off when he was like 8 years old or something, and is such a self-centered like ass, and I hate him so much. But his mum is like this really overly eccentric French woman who absolutely adores her son, but it's just like she's just wild. I love her. She is the best. Like, his mum is just like the mum. Like, just the mum. She's so supportive, but then there's the whole like mum guilt thing, and it's just a hilarious combination. And she's got a friend who is like a baroness who just goes through husbands like they're nothing. Honestly, it's an absolutely mad book with a mad set of characters, and I absolutely loved it. And I cannot wait for further material. Next up was Vampires Like It Hot, which is the next in my Lindsay Sands reread. This is Raphael's book. Yep, Raphael. And they go to Punta. I don't know if it's Punta, I might just be making it up. They go to this island resort to kind of help Santo, who's his cousin, relax. He's been having a lot of issues, nightmares and things like that after being captured by Dr. Dressler and severely tortured. Santo also has a history of being captured and tortured, which we find out in Santo's book, which I read later on in the month. And they are trying to get him to sort of decompress because he is at a breaking point. And while they are there, they pull this woman out of the water, and the first thing she says to them is, vampires. And they're like, oh crap. And so they have to figure out what's going on while also trying to keep Santo sane. And also Jess happens to be Raphael's life mate, so there's that as well. And it's just a whole lot of, like, it's just fun, crazy, Lindsay Sands-esque, like, madness. And I love it so much. This is one of my favourites just because it's so bonkers. Like, I really did enjoy this. I loved watching Raphael trying to figure out what's going on, Jess trying to figure out what's going on, and then the twist at the end, which I think will lead into further books down the line. It's added characters that we can see sort of like, we'll come into it later on. So yeah, I just love the way she does some of these things, like the way she twists things that you don't expect. I love her character work, and how there are so many different sides to these characters that you don't get to see until you're in their head, and then the way you see them with different people. I can always go on about these books, but for your sake, I will not. Next up, I finally did it. I finally finished The Gates of Giri, which means I'm up to date with the series. Until the 5th book of this series comes out and the final book, The Immortal Saint Germain, comes out, I'm finally up to date with the Casket Girl series. So Gem, this is your final video where I will talk about this series. So you are on your own with getting caught up with this. So The Gates of Guinea is the 4th book in the Casket Girl series. The books are up there, you can't see them, but they are up there. This follows Adele, who lives in New Orleans. She was living in France with her mum, but she has moved back to New Orleans with her dad. New Orleans has been devastated by a storm. It is not named as Katrina, but it is Katrina levels of disaster. The levees broke, the storm hit, people died, the whole place is destroyed. And Adele and her father come back to this destroyed New Orleans and are trying to get their lives back together in this town and this city that they love that has been completely decimated. And at the same time, Adele finds this diary from her ancestor and discovers that she's actually descended of witches, and there's a coven called the Casket Girls Coven that she is a descendant of, and there are other people in New Orleans who are also descendants of this coven, and this coven have cursed these vampires to be locked in the convent, the Ursuline convent, in the attic. And this is a very old myth in New Orleans. It's one of the originating myths in New Orleans. If you look up the Ursuline convent and the Casket Girls, it is a real thing, and vampires in amongst that myth have been there since day dot. And this has been written so beautifully. This book has been the highest stakes, and that's why it took me so long to read, because I got to a certain point and I was like, this is about to get heavy. This is about to get like seriously, like I'm going to have to focus on this. So I had to stop and wait until I was at a place where I can be like, right, let's go. Because this takes into consideration so many different types of magic. The point of the Casket Girls Coven is that each of these people come from different places. So we've got one descendant line that comes from England, one from mixed German and Native American heritage, one from African heritage that came down a slave line. So you've got the mixed African sort of Creole voodoo magic line. Adele's comes from a French line, and then you've got, where's the other one? There's another one as well, but I can't remember what it is. Italian, maybe? But there's like all these different types of magic, and there's in this there's the Gede, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but these are like the voodoo, not gods, but like deities almost. I don't know if I'd call them gods doesn't seem like the right word, but deities of a kind. And it just brings to the fore the rich history and the rich culture of New Orleans. Like, you can tell that Alice Arden was brought up in New Orleans. This series is such a love letter to New Orleans and the culture and the people and just the beautiful, like, I've never wanted to be somewhere so much in my life than reading about New Orleans through these books. They are just unreal. They are so special. Like, they are young adult, but oh my god, they are so rich. They are unbelievable. Like, you can feel yourself there. You can, like, I always say they're so visceral. You can smell the damp and the mould in the houses, because one of the characters works with the first responders and the people going into the houses to like demolish the houses to rebuild New Orleans. And obviously when they go in, the places have been sitting in water for months, and so like the mould and stuff that is the very dangerous mould that has been building up in the houses, the way it's described, I can almost smell it. Like, there's a few times where it's almost made me gag. It's so visceral. The images that Alice Arden can build, I have nothing but the most incredible praise for Alice Arden's writing. Siobhan has just read The Casket Girls. I don't know if they've finished it, but I know they have been reading it and have said the same. Like, it's so visual and so visceral, this interpretation, this like view of New Orleans that you get through Alice Arden's writing. And I actually, at one point, I think it was either this book or the previous one, which I can't remember, the Cities of Dead, or Cities of the Dead, I can't remember where the dead goes, but one of the characters was running through New Orleans and like talking about the streets that she was running through, and I went onto Google Maps and I followed her through the streets, and it was bang on where she was running. Like, she knows New Orleans like the back of her hand, and you can tell that. Like, I honestly cannot say enough about these books and how well they're written and how beautifully done they are. I cannot wait for the last one. It was supposed to come out in 2023, but obviously we don't have it yet. Alice, no pressure. Like, I know it takes time, and the amount of just the sheer amount that you put into these books, I know this is going to take you ages, and obviously she's not watching this, but Like, I need this book because I need to know what happens next, because that ending. It's fine. I'm fine. I am totally fine. I'm fine. Next, because I was totally fine after reading that last book, I decided to pick up a comfort read, and that was Flawless by Elsie Silver. Siobhan also was reading this, and I lapped Siobhan reading this book. I've never read a book faster than Siobhan before, but I picked up this book and read it in the space of a few hours. I actually had to stop because it was past midnight that I started this book, and read the first 200 pages and then read the last 100 pages or so the next day. But yeah, I absolutely love the Chestnut Spring series. It's no shock to anybody. I love this book. I love this series. This is not my favourite. This is my least favourite in the series, but I still love this book. This is about our two main characters, Rhett and Summer, and Rhett is a bull rider who has gotten himself a pretty bad reputation because he just has a big mouth on him and a short temper. And so his agent decides that he needs a babysitter, and he decides to send his own daughter, who's in the company that looks after Rhett, to be his babysitter. Now, he says to him, keep your hands off my daughter. And Rhett's like, haha, you're funny. And Summer's like, yeah, that's not going to be a problem. We all know where this is going. So, she ends up staying at the ranch, his family's ranch, with him and his dad and his brother, and yeah, she goes to different bull riding events with him and things like that, and they get closer because she's on him like bad spray tan on Donald Trump. She does not leave his side because he cannot be trusted to be on his own, and she's there to make sure his image stays squeaky clean, but at the same time she's also getting to know him better. And one of the things I love about Elsie Silver as well is that she writes her characters with so much more complexity than you'd think. So Summer, for example, so Summer had a heart issue when she was younger, so she spent a lot of her teen years in the hospital, literally could not leave the hospital, and so she's got a lot of visible scarring on her chest and things like that, but it doesn't stop her from wearing little outfits and stuff like that where you can see her scars, and she's like, why should I hide this? It's not a flaw, it's not something that I should be hiding or should be ashamed of. And Rhett is looking at this woman and he's like, one, she is so strong to have gone through that as a teenager and just been come out the end of it and be like, fuck the world, I'm great. And two, to have such confidence, because it's true, if you have scars and things like that, a lot of people struggle with that and they do want to cover them. I have scars on my body that I'm nervous about people seeing, and they're really not that obvious, but to me they look huge, they look really, really bad, and I want to hide them. So to have that appreciated, to see that appreciated, because it's the author herself has scars from surgeries and things like that, and then in the final book she says in the author's note about other types of scar, something about her surgeries and things like that. So I would read the author's note on the last one as well, and she has a lot of problems with that, and this is kind of her as well, having that confidence, pushing forward that confidence in herself to be we don't need to be ashamed of scars and things like that. And to have Rhett as this man who's cocky, confident guy who's actually really quite insecure inside, seeing this woman who is somebody who has been taught to be ashamed of herself from other people, turn around and be like, do you know what, no, I won't be, and just push through all that bullshit and just come out the other end and just, I love these characters so much. I love, again, I think the writing in this book is what lets it down. There's something about the way it's written that lets it down a bit, but the characters, I love the characters, I love the dynamics. It sets up the series really well, and I'm still looking forward to continuing a reread of this series. Next up was my only other DNF of the month, and that was All of the Above by Gina Dawson. This, again, was not a book issue, it was a me issue. This book, if you went to high school in the 90s or 90s, this is so accurate that it will give you flashbacks. I couldn't get through. I couldn't even get through, like, the first, like, 20 pages. Yeah, like, I think I got to, like, page 21. There's even a bit, I've just gone to page 22. It was like, 3, reblog cool stuff on Tumblr. I do not need to be called out like that. I do not need to relive that. I am not in a place right now where I can read that and be okay. It is so accurately written that it made me feel sick. Like, these characters were bang on what I experienced in high school. I don't want to read that. I cannot read that right now. I'm not in a place, mentally, emotionally, stable enough that I can read that. So it is going out as a DNF. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm not saying I will never read it. But right now, I can't do it. You know, I just can't do it. I love Juno Dawson. I think she is a fantastic author. I love her other works. I think, like, HMRC is, where is it? It's over there. It's on the other side of this rainbow shelf. Love it. Excellent. Again, very accurate to, like, the times and stuff like that. But it gets to the point when it's so accurate, I can't do it. I can't do it for my own sanity. So this is getting put down for now. We may come back to it. Next up was Iron Widow by Sharon J. Sell, and this book was a runaway success for me. This book, my god, one of my new favourite characters of all time. Can we just talk about the fact that she did everything I've been dying for my protagonist to do in books forever? Like, she does not take anybody's nonsense. There is none of this, like, oh, but, like, doing this would make me a bad person. It makes me just as bad as them. I need to take the high ground. No. No. No, you don't. They are that bad. If you don't get rid of them, they will continue to be that bad. Just get rid of them. Like, in real life, there's a whole nother discussion to be had with it. It's a book. It's a fiction. We can just be gone with characters like that. Thank you. Thank you. This author is my new deity. Like, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Publishers, do whatever you need to do to get this second book, please. I do not care what you need to give them. Please, like, I love this book so much. This is, so it's said to be like, what was the Pacific Rim meets something. I can't remember what it was, like, thingied as. But, oh yeah, Handmaid's Tale meets Pacific Rim. And that is dead ass on what this is. So, it is a reimagining of it's like a retelling style thing of the first female emperor of China. And it is about this world in which it's set in like a Chinese style, obviously it's the first female emperor of China, world in which there are these Hundan, which I'm probably pronouncing completely wrong, but again, I struggle with making certain sounds and certain shapes with my mouth and jaw. There are these creatures which come after the people who live here, and to protect them they have the Great Wall, but they also have these big robot type things called chrysalises, which are piloted by these men, by pilots, by men who have chi. Like, chi in this is like life, so chi is your life force, and if your life force is over a certain amount, you can use it as like a power, as like a, like, you can use it to power these chrysalises and use it as like to like blast stuff out of the chrysalises and stuff like that, and transform the metal that this chrysalis is made out of. And in order to do that, these men use concubines, these women who are who are sold by their families to have the honour of being concubines, and they are put into these yin and yang seats. So the men have one and the women have the other. I can't remember which way round it is because I have the brain of a lobotomized sloth, and the men basically, the women are there to be batteries. Their chi is there to be batteries for the men to suck dry, to use to battle. And there are sometimes these women who come along, like our main character, who have high chi, and sometimes they are a balanced match for the man who is in, and they can run it without killing the female. But our main character, when she goes in, she actually ends up killing the male pilot and comes out as an Iron Widow, which is what they call, it's like a term they use. So like an Iron Princess would be like his match if he was an Iron Prince, his like balanced match, but she's an Iron Widow because she killed him. They then, as like a part punishment, put her with the most powerful male, who's actually there as he is a prisoner himself, and she basically just wanted to go there to get revenge on the first guy because he killed her sister. But this is so much more than that. There's like a dreamscape within the chrysalis that they go into, and there's the whole Chinese culture that she goes back to with her family, and this whole I love this book so much. I can't wait for Heavenly Tyrant, and I will read anything this author writes. You want to write your grocery list, I will read it, because this was fantastic. I don't even read middle grade other than Percy Jackson, but I'm genuinely considering getting Zachary Yang. I think Tori has Zachary Yang, so I may borrow it because I have more faith that I will love Sharon's books. So yeah, but have faith, this book is actually worth the hype. Next up we have some trauma in the form of The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, who wrote the To All the Boys Loved Before trilogy. This is a contemporary fiction about a girl who goes to this cabin by the beach that she always goes to every year with her mum's friend, and like her kids and her brother. And that year everything changes in many different ways, and this had something in it that was very personally sort of triggering for me, that I didn't need in my life at this moment in time. But other than that, I quite enjoyed it. It was very kind of, yeah, I could see quite a lot of myself in the main character, like with the feeling of like grown up really fast when you start to develop before other girls, and like getting to that age where boys start to become a factor in your life. And it's so funny because it's so short, and it was such a quick like snatch grab of a summer, and it just, I really enjoyed it, but I struggled to describe it. And yeah, like I said, I could have done without the kick in the face at the end, but that's fine. I get it. I get, like, this was just like, yeah. That's all I can really say about it, because if I start talking about it, I'm going to cry. The next thing I read was Anseri by Peyton Corinne, and this version that I read was actually the self-pub version on KU. There is a trad pub, a traditionally published version, coming out soon. It is already out in the States. The UK published version comes out in April, I believe, and I loved this. I hesitated when I said that. So I said that this was the indie published version, and there's a new version coming out for a reason. I was kind of speaking to the author this morning, or this afternoon before I started filming. There was, if you saw in my vlog, there was a bit at the end. So the first half of the book, excellent, incredible, no notes, perfectly done. Second half of the book, there was a few strings that got a bit like tangled, didn't get tied up well, left more questions than answered, kind of got a bit messy. But the traditionally published versions, Peyton has said, does tie that up. It has been sorted out in the traditionally published, in the new versions of the ebooks. So I will be getting that and rereading it to get my answers. So I'm very happy that Peyton has addressed that, and that she has sorted that out, because it did get me. I was like red string level, like trying to work this thing out. But yeah, I'm so glad that she's had a chance for somebody to go over that, because the end of the book felt rushed, and I really hope that somebody's gone over that and just you know, helped her tie it up with a nice bow. That would be nice. Unsteady itself is a hockey romance. It's a hockey figure skater romance, and I just clicked on this just by chance. Like I've cancelled my KU subscription, and I just was like, well, I've got stuff on my KU library, so why don't I just like read something while I've got the subscription instead of just wasting like my last few days. And this is the one that just for some reason called to me, and I'm so glad I read it. So this is about our hockey player Reese, who at the very start we see him as he's had a traumatic brain injury. So he is on the ice and he can't see, and he doesn't know why he can feel the ice under his face, because he shouldn't be feeling the ice under his face, and he's panicking, but he can't move and he can't see, and it's very obvious that he's had a really bad hit to his head and that he's got a traumatic brain injury. And then goes forward to him waking up. He's in the dark, his dad's on the phone, and even the sound of his dad on the phone at the lowest volume on the bed is like hurting his head. And kind of the book is about him trying to get past or get through and heal from this injury and get back on the ice, but he's got a lot of fear and a lot of panic issues around it. And when he like gets on the ice for the first time after like goes on the ice to practice, he has a massive panic attack and is found by our female main character, whose name I can't remember. That's terrible. I'm really bad at this because I was talking about Reese's parents to the author, because the question that I had was about Reese's parents, but our female main character comes in because she's a figure skater, she's coming into practice and finds him on the ice having a massive panic attack, and she's like, shit, like I need to help him. And so she goes over to help him. She's like, look, you need to get up, I can't carry you, I need you to stand up, like. And he's like, I can't move. And she's like, it's okay, I will help you. She's like, I can't breathe. And she's like, you can breathe, you are breathing, it is okay, like. And she does wonderfully, like helping him off the ice and everything. And they start this kind of like, it's such a weird relationship because they're friends but they both like each other, but she's got like a lot on her plate because she's looking after her two younger brothers because her mum buggered off and her dad's an alcoholic, and it's just like, but she's trying to do college and work 3 jobs and do her figure skating, but her coach is also quite like, you see this relationship with her coach is quite toxic, and Reese is just the sweetest cinnamon roll of a guy, and I just want to squish him. And his parents are so supportive, and just like, his parents are just, again, like the best. I love them so much. And so the way that Peyton deals with her characters and their mental health, and the way she treats even the dad with alcoholism, who by all rights we should hate, she still treats him with kindness in the book. Like, it's very much like we should hate him, but she still makes it clear that the alcoholism is a disease and it's not something that he should be hated for. Like, yes, he's done bad things because of the alcoholism, but that's not who he is. Like, it doesn't make him a bad person. Like, honestly, like, I just love this. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that the last half of it was a bit messy, this book would have been absolutely perfect, and I really hope she manages to get that sorted in the trad published version. I will reread it and get back to you on that one, but and like, a lot of this is done as well, like a lot of the kind of like, there is like traditional therapy talked about in it as well, but a lot of what is used to help with Reese's panic is music, because that's what our female main character, I can't believe I can't remember her name, that's terrible, she uses music a lot of the time to help her with her, like, calm herself and stuff like that. And like, I know a lot of us use music to help with like, I love it so much. But yeah, I highly recommend it, and I cannot wait to read the new version. Sorry if you can hear Hamish in the background, he was crying at the door because Douglas was walking back and forward, so I had to do a treat scramble to to calm him down. Not even calm him down, he's just been a whinge, because he wants to go say hi to Douglas. But we just have a little bit more time. Just some more books, and then we can go out. The next thing I read was Stateless by Elizabeth Wine. This book was another one where I was scared to read it, but I should not have feared, because Elizabeth Wine is one of my all-time favourite authors, and I should not have mistrusted her at all. Elizabeth Wine writes historical fictions about pilots round about the time of World War II. And I say round about the time because this is actually set pre-World War II. It's set during the war in Europe, but not during World War II. And I distinguish that because this is set in 1937, and Germany is currently at war with some countries, but it's not World War II. Like, if we're saying World War II started in 1939 to 1945, 1937 then is it with the Second World War, and at that time I think it was known as the War in Europe, because certain powers hadn't gotten involved yet. So he just walked into my ring light. Sorry. Yeah, so the point in this book is that it follows this youth air Olympics, where young pilots, and by young I mean 16 to 20-year-old pilots from each country race round Europe basically for prize money, and it's supposed to garner peace in Europe to try and stop the war. Obviously we know it's never going to work, and behind it all as well there's this murder mystery going on, because on the way from England to, I think it's Belgium they go to first. I can't remember where it is they go first. Yeah, Brussels. There's a map. On the way from England to Brussels, our main character witnesses one of the planes knock one of the other planes out of the sky. And she can't tell who it is, because a lot of the planes are painted roughly the same colour, and while you're in the air you can't really tell. And so she realises that there's something else going on, and she's trying to figure out who could have done it, why they've done it, and who she can really trust. And I'm not big on murder mysteries. In fact, I really don't like murder mysteries. And I was really worried I wasn't going to like it, but it doesn't play out like a murder mystery. Like, it's still very much character based, but there's this sort of atmosphere due to the murder mystery, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Elizabeth Wine, she is just fantastic at writing characters, and she's fantastic at writing atmosphere. And there's this fear this entire time through of this war just grumbling on in the background, hovering over everybody's heads, and it's just, I just love this. She writes characters so well, and atmosphere, and just again, I can't go wrong with Elizabeth Wine. I should have trusted her. But yeah, I absolutely love this, and I can't wait to see what she comes up with next. Next, I read Saga Volume 11. I don't have much to say about this. I really enjoyed it. I think it made up for Volume 10 being a little bit of a flop. I absolutely just raided my way through volumes 1 to 9, sorry. I got the compendium. Someone bought me the compendium as a gift. Like, I can't remember who it was, the notes up in the thing. Someone bought me the compendium as a gift. Like, someone who doesn't necessarily know me in real life bought me the compendium as a gift. And I just absolutely blasted through that thing because I was obsessed with Saga. And then volume 10 came out after years, and it was such a disappointment. But this, in my opinion, this made up for it. This basically is a graphic novel series about these two characters who are ex-soldiers in this war between the moon and the planet, and they're two species, but they have a child together, and they're each sort of the planet and the moon's people are after them because they shouldn't have had this kid together. And the story is told from the kid's point of view, like it's the kid telling you the story, and they're basically just on the run from all these people, and it just follows them and all the shenanigans that they get up to is basically, and all the people they meet is basically Saga, but it's so good. I love Saga so much. It's so graphically violent and graphically sexual. Like, I started reading this in a Wagamama's, and I opened the page and there was naked people, and I was like, I forgot about Saga being like this. Like, volume 1, you open the page, naked people. It, like, raw dogging, like absolutely raw dogging. Like, I forgot what Saga was like, and really shouldn't have opened it in public. But it's fine. I just, honestly, like, it's so funny. I think Saga's absolutely hilarious. It is one of my favourite things, and I cannot wait for volume 12 after this, because this really did make up for volume 10. Next, I read Poems by Len Penny. This gave me the rage. And when I tell you it gave me the rage, I mean it gave me the rage. Like, the absolute rage. This is one of the best poem collections I have read, and to be fair, you can take that with a grain of salt, but also don't take it with a grain of salt. I don't read that much poetry. I have a John Keats collection, and I have some Shakespeare sonnets. And I think that's it. I'm looking at my library, and I think that's it. I don't really do poetry. because I'm dumb and I don't really get poetry. However, this is a collection of poetry that is basically about the abuses and the bullshit that women have to face on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think there's any other way to describe it. Like, it's half written in Scots and half written in English. So there's some poems in English and some written in Scots. Scots is a language. It's not just a variant of English. It is a language. And Len Penny is on TikTok and she does a Scots word of the day quite often. But like these poems, they talk so much about, I mean, it's not a happy poetry collection, but my God, did I love it so much. Like, it talks about how women are told to be quiet and be demure, and how we're told how we're told we're not allowed to be. Like, there's one poem in particular that talks about how that there's that sort of like dichotomy of how you can't be too loud, but you can't be too quiet, you can't be too pretty, but you can't be ugly, and you know, you can't be too fat, but you can't be too thin, you can't be like that whole thing. Like, if you have grown up as a female presenting person, you will read this and you will understand it, and it will give you the rage. And so many times for this, I just felt it's almost like I could feel the tears come into my eyes, but in that prickle of like anger, and I can feel it now. Like, I can feel the anger. It's such a weird one because I would recommend everybody read this. I think everybody should read this and just understand what it's like to live as a woman or as someone who presents as female. But I also understand that the Scots is going to be more difficult for people to understand because there's words in the I understand Scots, but there are still words in here that I don't understand, and even I found it difficult switching between the two languages. Like, if you know more than one language, it will probably take you time as well to switch between the two languages. Like, even if you're bilingual, switching between the two languages rapidly is probably more difficult. And I know you're not meant to read poetry collections like one right after the other, but at one point I just got hooked in and I just through the whole book. It's only 109 pages. And honestly, the rage of this gave me, but it was incredible, absolutely incredible. I just love this. Yeah, this is what I was talking about this in my vlog, but I'll show you it now. So the front has the match lit, and then the back has it not lit. I don't know why, but I was like, my God, it's been blurred by Nigella Lawson and Michael Sheen. Okay. I cannot shout from the rooftops how amazing this is. But I'm also severely angry. I just, you know, if you've read it, you'll understand. But I also think everybody should read this. But the subject matter is also very, like, triggery, so, like, bear that in mind. And then, like, weirdly enough, while I was reading that, I was also reading An Education of Malice, which is a Carmilla retelling, but based at a women's college in Massachusetts near Boston, but based specifically around two of the female students, because it's a women's college, and the professor who does a poetry seminar, which just was really funny that was the subject matter. And I don't know if this classifies as dark academia. I'm really unsure. It kind of borders on gothic from what I understand from watching a video of someone discussing gothic literature the other day. And again, I'm not quite sure where it falls within all of that. But this follows Laura, and she goes to the school and she wants to become a priest because women have recently been allowed to be ordained. This is set in the 70s, if I didn't already say. And when she gets there and becomes part of this cohort that do this poetry seminar, she meets Carmilla and she becomes instantly sort of obsessed almost with Carmilla. She's drawn in by her, and she sort of she can't stop thinking about her. And it's a sapphic kind of romance, gothic, dark academia style thing, and we get Carmilla's point of view as well. And Carmilla kind of hates Laura because Laura is taking the professor's attention, because Carmilla is obsessed with the professor, and she has this relationship going on with the professor, but you don't, like, it's not made obvious at first what kind of relationship they have. You just know that there's some kind of inappropriate relationship going on with the professor who's also a woman. Like, it's all sapphic. And it says in the trigger warnings that there's like power dynamics and inappropriate relationships with professors and things like that. And it's just so, this book didn't go where I thought it was going to go at all. Like, nothing happened how I thought it was going to happen. And I absolutely loved this. Like, I was so unsure about reading this book after Derry being such a smash hit with me. But I love this. I could not put this down. I meant to read a chapter and accidentally read the last like 250 pages of this book because the action just didn't stop. But at the same time, it was so quiet. Like, it was so... It wasn't action-packed, but there was stuff happening. I don't even know how to describe it. I loved it. I loved S.D. Gibson's writing in this, and I loved the intrigue with the characters and the feeling of that obsession and the inability to sort of, not obsession like a creepy, not creepy, but not obsession like this, like, big way, but obsession in a quiet way, obsession in a more sort of like way where they can't be apart, but at times they kind of want to push each other away. It was so, again, like, it was that just that way. If you've read Dowry, you get a similar sort of feeling in this, with that obsession where they, like, Carmilla, she hates her but she wants to be with her, but I just love this book so much. I really did. I honestly, like, S.D. Gibson is very quickly becoming one of those writers that I just can't get enough of. But at the same time, I would kind of like you to go to therapy. Just do it for me. Like, just go to therapy. Or if you're already in therapy, good, because nobody can write like that, and nobody can write these things without having, like, severe trauma. Because, like, damn, girl. Like, But, oh, this was good. This was so good. I loved it so much. So much. I said I was going to make this fast, and I'm doing a very bad job of that. But I'm on my last book, and that was my Lindsay Sands read. This was the last thing on my assigned TBR, and that is The Trouble with Vampires. And this, as I said previously, is Santo's book. Now, Santo is someone he is massive. He's like 6'6", built like a linebacker. They always say that in American books, but I don't actually know what linebacker is. But, like, built like a brick shit house. He is massive, like, big muscly guy, bald-headed, wears rings on every finger. Like, you wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley, but he is the last person that's going to harm you. Like, he will not harm a fly. Like, he would, but, like, the man rips the door in half when he thinks that the female main character is in trouble. Like, so he could, but he wouldn't harm you because he's a nice guy. An actual nice guy. Like, a genuinely good guy. I've come back from the island after Raphael had met Jess, and on their way back, and they've had a call because the 911 call has come in from this kid that they think their neighbour's cousin has Renfield syndrome, and so they stop by this house. Turns out they think there's a rogue in the neighbour's house, and Santo and Zanipolo and Bricker stop by with Marguerite and Julius to sort of watch the house because they think it might be Dr. Dressler, the one who kidnapped Santo and tortured him the second time. The first time it was somebody else. Turns out the kid who phoned, because there's like 3 houses, so there's one they're staying in, the house where the kid phoned from, and the house that Dressler might be in. Turns out the kid's staying with his aunt, and the aunt has come to stay with the kid because his parents have, like, gone off to do stuff. And it turns out his aunt is Santo's life mate. And yeah, so we have, like, the whole thing going on with, like, he's found his life mate, like, the thing with the rogue being next door, he's still struggling with his mental health. And turns out the aunt knows about immortals because when she was younger, she had, she found out about immortals in one of the worst ways possible. Well, at first it was fine because it was fine, and then it was really bad. You find out about that later in the book, so yeah, I'm not telling you about it because it's spoilers. It's basically just, like, him having to, it's so much about him and his mental health and trying to figure out, like, how to be a person again, because he's like just shy of 3,000 years old, and for most of his life he's been very secluded, and he doesn't know how to people. He doesn't know how to people. He's been having nightmares and has severe PTSD, and he doesn't want to hurt people around him, but he also, you know, wants to be. I just want to hug him. Like, I just want to help him so much. And Pet also has a lot of like issues with her past and things like that, and she doesn't know who to trust. She just lives in this constant state of fear almost, and she's trying so hard not to let her fear take over. I love these characters so much. The way that like Sandra's characters, I blasted through this book in like 4 hours because I absolutely love it. Santo is one of my favourite characters because, again, he's this big, massive, 6'6", built like a brick shit house guy, and like he is just an absolute sweetheart. Like, he was a warrior for most of his life. Now he plays drums in a band, in a rock band, and is a civil engineer, and like saves children and kittens. Like, this is the kind of guy. He's just really short, but could like bench press a house. You know what I mean? Like, I just love her characters so much. Hamish is having a scratch. He's just here to derail the video. There we are. That was everything I read and DNF'd in the month of March. I forgot what month we were talking about. I have really overdone this. I need to leave in 25 minutes and I still need to have food. So I really need to wrap this up. But I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any books that I've talked about. Let me know how you did in March. If you want to let me know that you were here and you don't want to sit and type a comment, you want to leave an emoji, leave me the fire emoji for poems, I can't say that word, poems, because it's got the match. I don't know if there's a matchstick emoji. If there is, leave it. If not, just leave the fire emoji, just to feel the rage with me. And yeah, I brought these up to show you because it was Marvelathon this month. I don't know how many points I got for Team Villains. I'll have to do that later. But yeah, let me know what team you're on and who you think will win. And yeah, happy Marvelathon, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed it. I wish I could have done more sprints and things for Team Villains and for my Venom character, but I've had the worst health month, I think, of my life. So yeah, it's been great, but I will see you next month with another wrap up, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next video. Bye.